And Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar knocked candidates who make a lot of promises but can't deliver them during last night's debate. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe caught up with her after the debate.
Senator Klobuchar, good to see you. Well, how do you think tonight went?
I think it went well. One of my focuses, as it was the last debate, was to take it to President Trump to make clear that it's not just Democrats that are watching these debates, it's independents, moderate Republicans. So I think it's very important when we have the opportunity is that despite the fact that we have differences, that we show that he has basically been taking us backwards in a number of things, including climate change, including what's the chaos that we're seeing at the border, what's happening internationally when North Korea is launching ballistic missiles, you name it.
You got asked at one point during the debate, keying off of what you had said at the start, that some would make promises tonight that basically would go unfulfilled. And they asked you, was there somebody who perhaps was making empty promises, and you kind of demurred. Was there somebody up there that you thought was saying something impractical?
Yeah, I made it clear. The bills I was talking about was this idea that I don't think that we're ever going to kick half of America off their current insurance in 4 years, and that's obviously Senator Sanders' bill. But a number of other people have been on that bill too, so I wasn't going to start naming every name. And then that we're going to give free college to wealthy kids. That is Elizabeth Warren's bill. But again, and I do agree with her on several other aspects of what she's trying to do, but not that. And so I think it's pretty obvious. It's just there are a number of people on that stage, and certainly on the stage tomorrow, that I don't agree with on this issue.
This was sort of set up as the two liberal lions facing off with a bunch of you who view things in a far more moderate way. Do you think you collectively, the moderates, were able to make those points tonight that they may be promising you pie-in-the-sky things that would never be practical or implemented?
You know, I think that's up for the voters to decide, but I don't think you should mistake the fact that we have different views as that we're not bold enough. That part of it really bothers me because I'm someone who's fought for everything, every step of the way, fought for my constituents, passed over 100 bills where I'm the lead Democrat. To get that done, you got to fight. And so I think we do a disservice when people are saying that that's not fighting. I think it's fighting. You just got a different way you want to do it.
So political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is joining me now from Detroit. Let us talk about last night, Ed. You know, certainly Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were presented as kind of the top of the ticket. But I thought it was really, really interesting that last night's debate really gave an opportunity for a lot of the other candidates, more moderate candidates that people might not have really even known, to really put forth some good policy arguments against those two.
Totally. It's telling that guys like Steve Bullock, the little-known governor of Montana, or John Delaney, the outgoing congressman from Maryland, got more airtime last night than people like Beto O'Rourke or Amy Klobuchar or John Hickenlooper. And it's because they were doing their darndest to make sure they got their points across and raised their concerns with the policies of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who were clearly ready to go after them if needed. We had been told in the last few days by their camps that, you know, they anticipated this would happen, and they were prepared to fight back with the kinds of lines that they delivered, which was sort of this argument of, should we be a party of bigger ideas, bold ideas, willing to change the system in fundamental ways, or do we creep through and continue doing things in small bites? And the crowd, at least, seemed to appreciate what Sanders and Warren were trying to do, while Delaney and Bullock may have been raising valid points. I'm curious to see if they can survive into the fall and the next round of debates.
Yeah, as I was watching, I thought to myself, you know, I'm not hearing sort of a lot of applause or outbursts from the crowd, and I thought, but part of the reason is because this was not about zingers and clapbacks and that sort of thing.
Right.
It was about a reasonable conversation about policies, and of course, the big topic was health care. It was the issue that Democrats spent the most time on last night. I want to play a bit of an exchange about Medicare for all, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
If you want stability in the health care system, if you want a system which gives you freedom of choice with regard to doctor or hospital, which is a system which will not bankrupt you, the answer is to get rid of the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies, move to Medicare for all.
But now he's talking about a different issue. What I'm talking about is really simple. We should deal with the tragedy of the uninsured and give everyone health care as a right. But why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's what they're running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal.
Okay, that wasn't just the only argument. You know, there was also arguments about, you know, paying for this and the sort of stuff that we always hear, the pushback that progressives get when they talk about Medicare for all. This is going to be probably the big debate amongst Democrats. And the idea is not only to speak to the Democratic voter, but before that, you have to win over the primary voters. So how was Medicare for all talked about last night?
Ad nauseum, really. As you said, it was the top. It was the top topic of conversation, the first big topic of conversation, and frankly, that's reflective of polling. If you look at the recent CBS News Battleground Tracker survey, it showed that a majority of Democrats want to hear from these candidates about health care, specifically how they would drive down costs. Well, there was some conversation last night about the mode of delivery of your health care, and some conversation about the potential costs. And so, you know, if you were somebody who wanted to hear from elements of the Democratic Party about health care, immigration, how to pay for college, gun control, climate change, this was a debate for you. We'll see whether it gets replicated tonight, but certainly a pretty substantive and kind of academic exercise for Democrats among a group of Democrats who, frankly, many of whom are not likely to be long-term factors in this race, but certainly were raising points of concern demonstrative of how some are concerned in the party that if they go a little too far to the left in terms of policy, they could be alienating the voters like here in Michigan or in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, that the party wants to claim back.
Yeah, you know, you talk about candidates that are probably not going to be here for the duration, probably not going to make it onto the debate stage in September. I even thought Marianne Williamson actually did all right. You know, I mean, it wasn't about policy, but I like what she introduced to the conversation.
Yeah, it is telling that you know, she we'll see whether she is able to continue on, and if she is, it's because she is making some valid points. That if you get stuck down in the weeds the way that some of these candidates were getting last night, you're going to lose voters who aren't necessarily, you know, that far down into the policy debate. And she made a valid point that there's a president who won by basically keeping it up here and just sort of appealing to people's emotions. And Democrats obviously don't think that way, certainly not during a primary, but she did raise some valid points.
Yeah. Hey, Ed O'Keefe, great catching up with you. Thank you.
Take care.